everybody, I'm Rick Beato, and this is my dear friend Rich Levy. Rich and I have known each other since 1994. Actually, that's not true. We met on Rich's birthday, January 4th, 1995. So Rich actually moved on, and he works for Live Nation now. Tell him about what you do.
So I went to Live Nation, became a promoter, and then started running all of our talent for all of our sponsorships. About 15 years ago, I started doing that, and now I'm there every day. I got a team of people who work for me, and here we are, just like in 1995, like when we used to sit on the couch before X-Files and talk about music and the issues of the day.
Pretty much like we're going to do right now. So today's episode, we're going to talk about replacement singers, and they actually kind of fall into a couple different categories. You have your singers that died, for instance, like Bon Scott died and was replaced by Brian Johnson with AC/DC,
right.
Or
Lane Staley,
who
died
and was replaced by William Duvall.
So we basically have a category which is died, right,
and then we have the category of bands whose singer quit,
or whether there were creative differences, or where the singer left to do something else, or where the singer just didn't want to be active and the rest of the band wanted to, and they replaced the singer.
And in some cases, they started new bands, but with the same people, except with a new singer, like Alter Bridge or Audio Slave.
That's a crazy thing to think about, because you got to have a lot of respect for the guys who do that, who they've got this gigantic brand name they've built up in their band, and they could go out and tour under that band name, like Journey out there with their
fifth singer,
who's great. Don't get me wrong.
But
not the originator of the songs that they're known for, and the audiences still go out and they love it. So, but you have guys who chose not to do that. Like you have bands, whether it was because legally they couldn't or because they artistically were driven to do so.
Legally would be like Guns N' Roses, where you had Velvet Revolver. They couldn't use the name,
but where the guys that signed the rights away to Axl, supposedly under duress, back in the Stadium days when he wouldn't go on stage. Can you imagine back then when it was Guns N' Roses, Metallica with Soundgarden opening?
Oh my God!
But here's the crazy thing, right? So Guns N' Roses did this huge reunion tour last year, and they did 180 shows, and Axl showed up and was on time for every single one.
That is insane.
That's crazy, right?
The one time I worked with Vince Neil for on that VH1 show with Desmond Child, they said the manager said, "Make sure you're on time." And I said, "Well, I'm going to be on time. Why though? Because Vince is notoriously on time, and he gets really pissed off if people are late." And Desmond showed up late. I was there on time. He's like, "What's up? Where's Desmond?" It's like, I don't know, man. Sorry. One of the biggest bands, and I've just recently have done a What Makes a Song Great on Van Halen. And Van Halen I wanted to start with, and we're talking about AC/DC too, but I want to talk about Van Halen because Van Halen has both singers that are still living.
Well, technically all three.
Oh, that's right. Gary
Cherone.
Gary Cherone.
Right? Yeah.
There are three singers. I had forgotten about Gary Cherone until I was researching. I was getting some video clips.
Their job is done if you've forgotten about Gary Cherone.
Well, no, I was looking for video clips to use in my Van Halen What Makes a Song Great, and I said, "Who is that singing Van Halen?" And all of a sudden I realized it was a short-haired Gary Cherone, and I said, "Oh my God, how did I forget that?" Okay, so let's go on the record here. Dave or Sammy?
Oh man, I'm a Sammy guy, and a lot of people are not. But
tell me why you like Sammy.
The sheer amazing power of his instrument, and
guitar. You mean?
No. I'm a power singer. I've always been a power singer. I've always been a power singer guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like I like those guys. Yeah. And when you hear some of the things that Sammy Hagar did on those records, like there's a song called "If It's Love," where he does like a 2-octave trill or something in it. Like, does he have as much personality as David Lee Roth? No way. But
No, he's a great singer.
But can he sing circles around them? Does he have melodies for days? Did he bring something to it? Yeah, and the first time I heard Why Can't This Be Love, I think I taped it off the radio and probably listened to it 8 times straight because I thought it was unbelievable.
Okay, so I'm going to defend Dave, okay? Dave is actually, he was a very good singer. I think that he gets a bad rap that some people think he can't sing, but he had really good pitch, great delivery, excellent time as a singer. Now, Sammy was technically a better singer, but Dave, I think it's a little bit of a bad rap. I think that the songwriting to me was superior when Dave was in the band.
I think different, and I think reflective of the times.
Yes.
You know, you can't compare what Dave did with Van Halen against what Sammy did with Van Halen. You would have to compare what Dave did with Van Halen to like the Sammy equivalent of the time period. Things
True.
Like whatever, I Can't Drive 55 or 3 Lock Box or whatever it is that you want. And yes, the songwriting is better. How much of that is Dave? How much of that is Eddie? I don't know. But listen, I'm not an anti-Dave guy. You just asked me what I like better. I have tremendous respect for the work that Dave did, you know, up until the Greatest Hits record, where they did those 3 tracks. And then what's happened since then, I think, is not as redeeming.
That's very artfully put.
You like that?
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about AC/DC. For me, this is my era. I was in high school when Bon Scott was the singer of AC/DC, and he died right when I was going to college. And Back in Black came out my first semester in college in 1980. And everyone at the time thought, well, there's no way they're going to be able to replace Bon Scott. There was hardly any months that had gone by. They didn't miss a record cycle. They put out a record the next year.
By the way, can I curse on this or not?
Yeah.
I can. Okay. Listen. Angus has got to be one cold motherfucker. Because if you, like, forget about Brian Johnson and forget about the Bon Scott to Brian Johnson thing. Look at how quickly they were like, Axl Rose going on tour with us.
No,
like Brian Johnson got like a telegram or something. I don't know.
He had a sore throat one day. He got replaced.
He's like, my ear kind of hurts.
That's right.
Next thing he knows, Axl. No, I mean I hear you. Like that is the all-time. You know,
I mean, come on, they must have had all the riffs written for Back in Black.
But whether or not they had the riffs written,
I know it's unbelievable.
It's what he did with them.
Yeah.
Now, look, you go on a deep dive and you'll see all the conspiracy theories that not only were the riffs written, but
Bond had written
Bond
everything.
had written some of the melodies.
No, because the material after that. For those about to rock,
yep.
It's the that same type of.
Bond wrote a lot of material. There was a lot of apparently. No, I mean, how do you do that? How does lightning strike twice like that?
That to me is the most amazing rebirth of a band.
Back in Black was the best record with a replacement lead singer.
Oh yeah.
And continuation, like stands on its own.
Absolutely.
Stands on its own with any great rock debut. I mean, it's unfathomable. And by the way, 5150 was no slouch of a record.
No,
that was a great record. But you can begin. It was such a left turn. Imagine if they had done a set of songs that good with a guy who was as close to Dave, but had his own thing, as Brian Johnson was to Bon Scott.
Yeah.
I mean, hard to even fathom that. And you know what? I think also it was a less cynical time. Because if that happened today, people would be like, oh, it's a fake, it's a pale imitation of the person. I can't believe that they just, found somebody who sounded like him. There would be all that
some
stuff.
Conspiracy about all this,
There'd be all that stuff from online, right?
Right, yeah, of course.
Think about even in Journey and the story about Arnell, the current singer who's been with them now for years, and is great. But how Neil Schon found him on YouTube and and couldn't believe it, and it turned into this fairy tale story. There's a great documentary, Every Man's Journey, that's worth checking out about it. But even now, they never wrote the record they would have needed to write to give it that sort of legitimacy.
Black Gives Way to Blue, Alice in Chains. Now, that was a replacement singer with William Duvall, who was living in Atlanta at the time.
Right.
And
Great guy.
And he was friends with... How did that connection get made?
Before William was in Alice in Chains, Jerry Cantrell put out 2 solo records.
Yeah.
And William toured with him, like as a touring guitar player, and then he would sing, the Alice in Chains songs they did, he would sing the parts.
Yeah.
And it was great. And then all of a sudden, they did an Alice in Chains record, and nobody expected anything.
It's amazing. If you guys don't know Black Gives Way to Blue, it came out in 2009, I believe. The songwriting is incredible, and it's one of the greatest sounding rock records I've ever heard. Nick Raskullin has produced it, Randy Staub mixed it, and it is just monstrous. And you say what you said about it.
But it could be the best sounding record in the world.
Right.
But it feels like the record the band was going to make after Dirt. It's really, really...
And we love Alice in Chains.
But it's an unbelievably good record. It
is.
It holds up with the rest of it.
It really does.
And that's just nuts, because I can't think of another instance in the last 15 years that's happened. And it's got to be a testament to...
It shows you Jerry's influence in how important his vocal contribution was to Alice in Chains. I mean, obviously the harmony parts were incredibly important, but the tone of his voice, it just sounded like Alice in Chains again. It was amazing.
And at the same time, if you listen to those Cantrell solo records, like the song Cut You In, which I think was the first single off the first record, it's good, but there's some element missing. And they really did it on that record in just a way that I'm still dumbfounded by it. I don't know. Like, at what point are you're Jerry Cantrell, you've had this majorly successful band, you've had a solo career, and you decide that you're going to do a new Alice in Chains record, and somehow you are still hungry enough that you write this monstrous group of songs and then deliver on the recording on it.
There's a set of videos, I'm sure they're still on YouTube, where they chronicled the making of that record. And if you guys get a chance, you should go watch the making of it. I want to say they had about 12 episodes, and if you love studio recording, it's really great. It shows you their process. They do drum tracking, they do guitars, and they talk about it. I learned a lot just from watching those videos. Well, Rich, this has been incredibly interesting. I want to have you back on other episodes because you know way more about trivia than anyone I've had on here. Plus, you have the personal experience of actually having gone to a lot of these concerts too and worked at them.
Well, like I said, for me, we talk about nostalgia. This is like going back to 1995 and sitting on the big fold-out blue couches.
That's right. At Rich's place,
killing time before X-Files comes on, or whatever it is we're going to watch that night. Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Rich.
I'd like to once again thank Rich for being my guest today and find out from you who did it better. Was it Bon Scott or Brian Johnson or David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar? And leave any of your other comments in the comments below. Also, remember to subscribe here to my Everything Music YouTube channel. If you're interested in the Beato book or anything in my store, this is what helps support the channel. Go to my website at www.rickbeato.com. Remember to follow me on Instagram at rickbeato1, and you can also become a member of the Beato Club. Thanks so much for watching.